And I'm going to start with what you gave us already.
Okay.
Because I can use your pathway as an example to show what they do to so many of our boys.
Right, right.
So, for example, you were in the 3rd grade.
Yes.
That's normally the grade when they start evaluating black boys for ADHD.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, just to back up for a minute, first it was ADD.
Yeah.
Attention Deficit Disorder,
right.
1980.
Right.
The problem with ADD is there's no drug that can make you pay attention. So when you deal with mental health, you have to deal with the influence of the psychiatric drug cartel. There's no such thing as talking about mental health without talking about Wall Street drug profits.
Wow.
They go hand in hand.
Come on.
Psychiatric medication is a $30 billion a year industry. You're talking big bucks for small pills.
Wow.
You see?
Yeah.
So now, when you look at 3rd grade and you look at the criteria for ADHD, a lot of what you need to display to be classified with it could be arguably considered normal behavior for an 8, 9, 10-year-old.
Right.
You see the contradiction right there, right there from the beginning.
Yeah.
Has trouble sitting still.
Yeah.
He's in the 3rd grade.
Right.
Has difficulty paying attention. He's in the 3rd
Third
grade.
grade.
Has trouble playing quietly. He's in the 3rd grade. So at what point is this mental illness versus you practicing discrimination against traditional male behavior?
Right.
A big issue I have with ADHD is it is
And the H is for hyperactive.
and the H is for hyperactive.
Yeah.
So in 80, when you had ADD, it was just deficit, no hyper.
Right.
But the drug companies weren't getting paid.
Right.
So 7 years later, in 1987, when the DSM-2 or 3 came out, I forget which one it is, that's when they added the H.
Yeah. That's
So-
right during my time.
Absolutely, you see that.
Yeah.
So right now, the way the DSM-5 operates,
Right.
even if you don't meet all the criteria, I can still label your child as ADHD. Let me say that one more time.
Yeah.
Even if you do not meet all the criteria, I can still label you
Wow.
as ADHD.
Right.
And with the new DSM-5, Nick, they made it easier for us to classify children with ADHD because before we needed to see symptoms by like the age of 8.
Right.
Now it's like you need to see symptoms by like the age of 12.
Right.
Before, we needed to see clear evidence that these problems was disrupting this child in several life areas.
Right.
Today, the bar has been reduced and it just needs to cause some sort of maladaptive activity, if you would.
Right.
And I'm paraphrasing the criteria. But the point I'm trying to make is they lowered the bar.
Right.
So now it's easier to put children in with the ADHD.
Right.
So, number one, you have an issue of male behavior being criminalized and pathologized.
Right.
Why is that a big issue? Because most teachers are what? Female. The public school is a female empire. Most teachers are women, black or white.
Right.
The problem is female teachers, because they were never boys and have never lived as men. They don't know that the behavior that they see, a lot of it is normal.
Right.
This is what boys do.
Right.
If you had more male teachers, there would be less referral for ADHD. Most children, black boys in particular, are diagnosed with ADHD almost exclusively off the recommendation or complaint of a white female teacher and a frustrated black mother. A black woman and a white woman are working together and they're driving this ADHD machine. Now, for me, one of the things that concerns me a lot about the ADHD crisis, because that's exactly what it is, Nick. We can go to some of the schools in Los Angeles and literally almost every boy, especially if he's black, almost everyone, if not everyone, is on some form of psychiatric medication. I don't care if it's Ritalin, Adderall, Concerta, Cyclerc, Metadate. How can a whole classroom have ADHD?
Right.
First of all, statistically speaking, only about 15% of any population should be quote unquote disordered. 15%.
Right.
How you end up with half the class on medication? Something is clearly wrong. And as someone who works in schools, I can tell you, if the school is poorly run, poor structure, the kids are going to be more referred for medication because they're dependent on the psychiatrist to control behavior in the school. ADHD is not a special education disability. There's 13 special education disabilities. There's over 400 clinical disorders. Although I'm trained to evaluate for ADHD, if I'm going to do it, I got to do it in the clinic. In public and charter school, you cannot diagnose a mental disorder, only learning disabilities. So you say, if that's the case, why are there so many black boys in special ed for ADHD if you just said y'all don't diagnose it in the school?
Right.
Because one of the 13 federal special ed classifications is other health impairment, OHI. OHI is any medical or psychiatric problem that affects your ability to learn in the classroom.
Right.
You see that?
Yeah, yeah.
So your mother or father gets you diagnosed with ADHD. You bring that evaluation back to the school. Now that they have the evaluation, they can legally evaluate and consider classification for special ed purposes.
Right.
In other words, you can't even end up in special ed unless your parents give the school that outside diagnosis.
Right.
And I'm on a mission to tell parents, black parents in particular, stop getting your children evaluated for ADHD. Because if your son can learn, why does he have an IEP anyway? See, remember this, Brother Nick, in order to qualify for special ed,
Right.
you not only must have a disability,
Right.
it must affect your learning. Stay right there.
All right.
If we go to any classroom, we're going to see thousands of black boys who have no problem learning
Right.
in a special ed class.
Right.
Why is he in there?
Right.
For discipline problems. It is illegal in the United States of America to place a child in special ed for behavior. Special ed is not for behavior. It is for learning problems. But guess what? Half the black boys in America are in there for what? Behavior, because their parents don't know the law, they don't know their rights, and the schools are basically discriminating against them.
Wow.
You
'Cause
see
they
this?
get money for the special education.
Yes, here's how it works. On average, special ed children are worth twice as much as the regular. So let's say Nick and Umar are second graders.
Right.
Nick is a regular student. Umar was referred for special ed.
Right.
I qualify.
You're right.
Let's say the school district we attend spends $9,000 per pupil,
Right.
right? Once I qualify for special ed, I'm not worth 9 no more. I'm worth 18,000. It's double your money. And they get that extra 9 every year I'm in special ed. So if you're getting an extra 9, let's say we're in second grade,
Yeah.
extra 9, you got 10 more years of school
Yeah.
before you graduate.
Right.
That's 9,000 times 10 years.
Yeah.
That's an extra 90,000, one kid.
One kid.
What about 100? What about 1,000? So I want you to see that special ed is a multi-million-dollar empire
Right.
based on lies.
Right.
And why do I say lies? Most of our children who end up in special ed are not there because they can't learn. It's because they can't control their behavior. Let me take that back. Haven't been taught how to control their behavior,
Right.
or they haven't been taught the skill for which they're being evaluated.
Wow.
80% of kids who are put in special ed, Brother Nick, are put in for reading problems. For reading, right?
Which I have had all my life.
You see?
Yeah.
Right, reading.
Yeah.
So-
but can be taught to overcome it.
Can be taught to overcome it.
Yeah.
So why you got all these children in there for reading? We don't have people who can teach children how to read?
Right.
Of course we can. You got 2 issues. In order to properly teach reading, you really need to have some kind of a phonics approach. Most public schools, a lot of them, have taken phonics out of the instruction.
Yeah.
Phonics is basically mastering the letter sound association.
Yeah.
If you don't master the letter sound association, how you ever going to learn how to read?
Right.
You see that?
Yeah.
So the reason why a lot of children are disadvantaged in learning reading is phonics has been removed from the instruction. Now, let's
That
go
can
to
be taught at an infant level.
that can be taught at an infant level. Children can read at 3. What do you mean you can't read at 13 with normal intelligence?
Right.
Now, let's go to the home. This is where we got to take responsibility.
Right.
Most parents, they just celebrated Christmas. They bought a whole bunch of gifts, right?
Right.
How many had books under the Christmas tree? How many had a dictionary under the Christmas tree with more than 100 pages?
Phonics program.
How many had a thesaurus under the Christmas tree?
Right.
How many bought a complete set of encyclopedia A through Z under the Christmas tree?